So could you please introduce yourself first?
Yeah, my name's Patrick Pringle and I work for the UK Climate Impacts Programme based at University of Oxford.
Okay, so what do you think is the biggest issue or the challenge that we face in context of climate change and adaptation?
It's a huge number of different challenges. I mean, I think the urgency is the big thing for me, that we're now already experiencing the impacts of climate change in many countries. So we really need to be taking action now and really preparing ourselves. And actually, the progress we're making on mitigation is sadly falling short of where it needs to be. So we have no choice but to begin the adaptation process, and we already have begun that process.
Okay. So how do you define climate adaptation, and more specifically, how do you define success in climate adaptation yourself?
Good questions. There's lots of different ways of defining climate adaptation, but it's the ability of humans, of communities, of businesses to adjust in response to changes to the climate. So what we're trying to do is understand what the future impacts may be, and then adjust our behaviours, the way we run systems, maybe the way we educate as well, in making sure young people are getting access to the information about climate change. So it's all about changing behaviour and changing practice so that we're better prepared, we're more resilient, and we're less vulnerable to the impacts of climate change.
The session we were just in, the discussion of monitoring and evaluation versus the tracking adaptation success was quite heavy.
Yeah.
Would you maybe summarise and add something to this discussion?
Summarise and simplify. I'll try
simplify.
my best. Yes. Well, monitoring and evaluation is quite simple. Basically, what we're trying to do is understand: are we doing the right things, and are we doing them in the right way? So what we're trying to do is to track and to understand what progress we're making with adaptation. And the key part of that, as you heard in the discussion, is learning. How do we learn whether we're doing the right things and doing them in the right way? So that's the crux of all this. And if we don't learn, we won't be able to then improve what we do next time. So it's all about this process of learning and monitoring and seeing how well are we doing. Could we do better? What works, what doesn't, in which contexts and why? So it's all about improving that learning function so that we can then do things better, because, as I say, we're running out of time with climate change. Things are getting pretty bad and pretty urgent. And if we wait 20 years and we make the same mistakes, we're going to spend a lot of money, waste a lot of money, and we're going to be in a worse position. So we really have got to start learning.
And Cristiana Figueres said in the plenary session on Tuesday that we need to focus on tracking individual adaptation, in contrast to what your session, someone from the session said that she most of all focused on the global success of adaptation. So what do you think is more important to focus on?
I think they're both important. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other. I mean, my particular passion would be actually exactly what you said to begin with, the local level. That's where adaptation is experienced, that's where communities are being affected, that's where businesses are being affected. So we do need to understand the effectiveness of individual adaptations, absolutely. And that's the starting point for this learning process. But equally, sometimes it is useful to stand back and look at a higher level of where we are in different places and what we can learn between places as well. So there's a value to both, I would say. But I completely appreciate we do need to look at what's happening on the ground, because that's where adaptation happens, and that's where people who are highly vulnerable are being affected. And if we talk up here the whole time and we don't think about the people, and that's the other thing she said, it's about human beings, it's about lives, it's about livelihoods. So we really need to always, she mentioned the three ladies that we should consider, and that's really important. Think about the personal and the human elements of this, and that means coming down to the community level.
One more question. What do you want to say to the future generation, like motivation or encouragement for the people who need to take over this task eventually?
Well, I think when you start getting grey hair, don't become cynical, because you don't need to be. We live on an amazing planet, and we have amazing capacities as human beings, and we have a chance to decide what future we want. And I think it's very easy. You go to school, you learn things, you get a job, you settle down, you maybe have kids, and you become what we think is a conventional human being, and you do the right things, and you get a mortgage, and you do these things. But we can do these in ways that are ambitious, and we can be passionate about things, and we can make a difference. in doing that, following those paths. So I think, stay passionate about the world, stay interested in human beings, care for one another, and look after the planet. And I think it's really sad when you see people kind of getting to a certain age and they stop being passionate. And the great thing about this conference is there are people from all ages who are absolutely passionate about making a better planet, making a better world for the people in it. And I think retaining that passion is really important, and don't get disheartened, because there's so much we can do. There's so many challenges we face, but there's also huge opportunities, and job opportunities to work in this amazing area as well, and meet amazing people and change lives. So I'd stay positive.
Thank you very much.